Welcome to the All Things Money podcast, where Dr. Kent unravels the complexities of personal finance and investment strategies to empower your financial journey with cutting-edge insights and practical advice.
Hello, and welcome back to another installment of All Things Money. I'm your host, Dr. Kent. It's great to have you with us today as we wrap up yet another eventful week in the financial world. How's everyone doing? Ready to dive into some of the major events that shaped our markets this week? If you're a regular listener, you might recall last week's episode where we explored the stock market's resilience amidst global economic flux. But today, we'll shift gears a bit and focus on the dynamic landscape of business funding and the continued impact of market trends. We've got a lot on the agenda, so let's jump right in. First, let's touch on the stock market. As it's been quite a week, inflation and labor reports were heavily distorted by the government shutdown, but still point toward moderating wage pressures, easing inflation, and a gradually stabilizing labor market. With wage growth cooling and hiring softening, not sharply, but enough to matter, the Fed is likely to maintain a gradual easing bias next year. Elevated tech valuations, improving liquidity, and better earnings momentum across cyclicals, mid-caps, and international equities support a potential rotation beyond mega-caps. A balanced approach is favored: neutral tech exposure, broader equity diversification, benchmark neutral bond duration, and a review of excess cash as yields drift lower. As the year winds down, the delayed U.S. employment and inflation reports delivered the final major data points before investors step back from the constant drumbeat of market headlines and enjoy some holiday cheer. While these numbers warrant a healthy dose of skepticism, even in their imperfect form, they reinforce a constructive market outlook. They may also be offering an early indication that the rotation in market leadership we've seen beneath the surface in recent months could have staying power as we look ahead to 2026. As far as surprises go, the November inflation report delivered a big one. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, announced that headline CPI slowed to 2.7% last month from 3.1%, while core CPI, which excludes the volatile food and energy components, eased to 2.6% from 3%. The latter is now rising at its slowest pace since 2021, and both measures came in below every economist's estimate. But there is a major caveat. Due to the government shutdown, the BLS was unable to collect a significant portion of the October price data and therefore had to make assumptions about the prior month's inflation levels. Most notably, shelter inflation, which represents 1/3 of CPI and normally moves gradually, showed an unusually sharp cooling. It appears the BLS assumed 0% housing inflation in October due to the missing data. In my view, these distortions overstate the true extent of the inflation slowdown, which means it may take another month or two before investors and the Fed get a clearer read on underlying price pressures. Still, I expect ongoing housing disinflation to gradually pull services inflation lower through 2026. A sharper deceleration would be a welcome upside surprise. But my base case remains that inflation holds range-bound in the first half of the year and stays above the Fed's 2% target in 2026, albeit with modest improvement compared to 2025 levels. Sticking with the theme of cloudy data, the BLS also released the delayed October and November employment reports. The U.S. economy added 64,000 jobs in November, above consensus, but that came after a 105,000 decline in October. The October drop, the largest since 2020, stemmed primarily from a 157,000 decrease in federal government employment as workers who accepted the administration's deferred resignation offer rolled off payrolls. I expect federal employment to remain generally stable from here. More importantly, the private sector added 121,000 jobs across the 2 months, a pace I view as healthy. Gains remain concentrated in healthcare, while manufacturing shed jobs for the 7th straight month. October's unemployment rate was not published due to the shutdown, but November's reading rose to 4.6%, a 4-year high though for the right reason, as more workers re-entered the labor force. For every positive data point in the labor market, one can find a counterweight. Even so, I believe the most likely path forward is gradual stabilization with continued low hiring, low firing dynamics. I expect job gains to improve modestly to 50,000 and 100,000 per month, while a smaller labor supply, partly due to lower immigration, keeps unemployment near 4.5% in 2026. Fed Chair Powell had already cautioned against overinterpreting the latest data given shutdown-related distortions. This helps explain why bond market expectations for rate cuts did not shift materially after last week's data releases. Still, the latest inflation and labor trends may provide additional justification for dovish members to advocate for further easing in 2026. Wage growth moderated to 3.5% in November, the slowest since 2021, helping contain inflation pressures. Meanwhile, labor market softness, though not recessionary, should keep the Fed in easing mode next year, albeit with a shallower cutting cycle than in past slowdowns. I think easier Fed policy alongside a still solid economy has meaningful implications for both equity and fixed income positioning, especially as leadership dynamics begin to shift. Heading into the new year, I see a backdrop of slightly looser Fed policy, modest fiscal stimulus tied to the new tax bill, fading tariff uncertainty, and steady economic growth. Combined with elevated tech valuations and accelerating earnings growth across the rest of the market, I believe this environment sets the stage for market leadership to broaden after years of concentration. Since early November, investors have begun rotating away from the dominant large-cap technology names that have led since the start of the bull market in 2022. AI should remain a powerful tailwind, but concerns about the pace of spending, return on investment, rising debt issuance, and potential overbuilding are triggering what I view as a healthy pause in the most expensive segments of the market. Meanwhile, a potential sustained pickup in productivity thanks in part to AI may help boost profitability in areas that have lagged. Cyclical sectors, small and mid-cap companies, value-style investments, and international equities all trade near average valuations relative to their own histories and stand to benefit from improved liquidity and better credit availability. Since November, the equal weight S&P 500 has outperformed the market cap weighted index by roughly 3%, a potentially constructive sign of healthier breadth heading into 2026. The upshot: I expect markets to broaden both within tech and beyond, with solid earnings contributions across sectors and regions, favoring a balanced portfolio approach. Uncertainties remain, and the data fog may take time to clear, but the economic and market backdrop still supports another year of positive returns in 2026 inches. Our view, even if market leadership shifts, as already outlined. Here are 4 actions I recommend investors consider heading into the new year. Maintain exposure to innovation and AI, but spread risk. I recommend a neutral, benchmark weight position in the tech sector, and a 50/50 balance between growth and value to reduce concentration risk while keeping exposure to the AI structural theme. Broaden your opportunity set to include mid-caps, cyclicals, and international equities. I favor U.S. mid-caps, international, small, and mid-cap stocks, as well as emerging market equities, where valuations remain more reasonable and earnings momentum is improving. Use bonds for still attractive income and portfolio stability. Even after recent declines, 10-year Treasury yields remain near the high end of their post-2008 range, offering compelling income opportunities. I recommend maintaining benchmark neutral duration for bond exposure. Review excess cash allocations as yields decline with Fed rate cuts. With cash yields likely to drift lower, consider whether some cash could work harder elsewhere. Depending on your goals and risk tolerance, that may mean adding to high-quality bonds or increasing equity exposure. Even if you're not a trader, it's good to keep an eye on the overall movement since they can affect everything from the economy to your personal finance decisions. Once again, I've seen some surprising resilience, albeit with a bit of a roller coaster as usual. Did any particular market movement catch your attention these past few days? I find it fascinating how the market ebbs and flows with investor sentiment acting as both a rudder and an engine. This week, we observed fluctuating oil prices influencing stock values in the energy sector. This is a classic example of how interconnected our world has become. When oil prices drop, consumer stocks often get a boost because people expect to spend less on fuel. However, the flip side with energy stocks illustrates the complexities investors face. If you're just stepping into this world, understanding these links can help shape a more comprehensive investment strategy. Also, what's particularly worth noting this week is the emergence of innovative funding solutions for businesses looking to scale. Now, I love this topic because it combines entrepreneurial spirit with financial savvy. Financing can range from traditional bank loans, which still have their place for sure, to venture capital, crowdfunding, and even some creative new models we're seeing crop up in the fintech scene. For instance, a growing trend is revenue-based financing, where a business might give up a percentage of future revenue instead of fixed equity stakes to investors. This can be particularly attractive to startups who are not quite ready to give away a share of their company, but need immediate capital to get things moving. It's less about ownership and more about partnership, aligning the interests of the business's efficiency with the investor's returns. Quite an empowering model if you think about it. It's crucial, however, to keep in mind that every type of funding comes with its own set of expectations and requirements. Entrepreneurs need to assess their business goals, risk tolerance, and operational capacity before diving in. Not every funding source is suitable for every business, and bridging this topic to personal finance strategies, adaptability is key. That was actually inspired by a listener's question last week about navigating these uncertain times. Being adaptable with your strategies allows you to pivot as circumstances change, ensuring that you aren't caught off guard by market shifts. Adaptability also means staying updated with expert insights, much like the ones provided here at the All Things Money podcast. Our market updates are tailored for those wanting to dig deeper into market performance and get a clearer picture of how shifts affect their own financial landscape. We do our very best to be a great resource for anyone keen on getting accurate analysis of stock market trends. If you're serious about investing, incorporating our insights into your decision-making process is a valuable step. Let's switch gears slightly. I recently read a fascinating report on the role of environmental, social, and governance criteria, or ESG, in investment strategies. It's a topic that's really gaining traction, especially among the younger generation of investors who are choosing where to put their money not just for the returns, but for the values they support. This past decade has shown a significant shift in how people view the companies they invest in, expecting them to not just be profitable, but responsible. Investing with a focus on ESG can certainly influence a company's stock value, yet it's not just about ticking boxes. Companies actively engaging in sustainability practices often prove to be more innovative and financially resilient in the long term. The debate, of course, involves how to accurately measure and report on these metrics. However, with increasing regulatory attention and demand for transparency, we're likely to see more robust frameworks in place soon. Keep your eyes peeled for how this shapes the landscape moving forward. And speaking of shifting landscapes, let's talk a bit about the cultural change in personal financial planning, especially after the pandemic taught us all a few lessons on preparedness and adaptability. For many, gone are the days of setting a plan and sticking rigidly to it regardless of what life's throwing at you. Similar to businesses adopting varied funding models, personal finance now often involves a toolkit approach, mixing traditional wisdom with contemporary insights. What does that mean practically? Well, it's about routinely assessing your financial health, reserving time for scenarios from emergency funds to diversified investments that go beyond a workplace. 401k, think outside the box. Consider opportunities in stock options, real estate, or even exploring how digital currencies fit into your portfolio. Times are changing fast, and the worst position to be in is realizing you're unprepared for the evolution and risk that come with it. Now, a quick story I like to share with my clients involves the simple and powerful lesson from compound interest, a concept many of you might already be familiar with, but always worth revisiting. An old mentor of mine once explained it by asking me to imagine money like a seed. The more you plant, and the longer it's left to grow, the bigger and healthier the tree becomes. Investing early despite market volatility can mean huge differences in the long run. Consider Einstein's quote about compound interest. It's often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. That always strikes me because it encapsulates the power dynamics of financial knowledge. The sooner you start to not just grasp but apply this concept, the better positioned you'll be to make your money work for you rather than the other way around. This week's ups and downs in the market are a reminder that despite external circumstances, the internal ones, our knowledge and strategies, can offer stability. Now, before I wrap up today's discussion, let's touch briefly on what's shaping up for next week. We'll probably see continued discussions around interest rates, with the Federal Reserve's next steps expected to be unveiled soon. We'll also keep our eyes on any geopolitical events that might sway market sentiment, as they often do unexpectedly. Stay sharp, stay informed, And remember to ground your financial decisions in both current trends and timeless principles. I'll be excited to delve into those topics with all of you soon. And there you have it, folks. We've journeyed through market updates, explored innovative funding mechanisms, and expanded our perspectives on financial planning. I trust that this has offered you some new angles to consider. Remember that with a continuously evolving market, there's always something to learn and adapt to. So, keep tuned in, keep questioning, and above all, keep learning. Thanks again for joining me on All Things Money. Take care and see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the All Things Money podcast, where Dr. Kent has equipped you with the insights and tools to master your financial future. Until next time, keep investing in yourself.